Hello and welcome to a DETV news special dedicated to LGBTQ plus support here in the First State. I'm Matt Ford. This month, DETV joins the LGBTQ plus community in celebrating Pride Month. For the past month, parades, marches, festivals, workshops, picnics, and parties have taken place around the world to celebrate Pride Month, which honors the Stonewall riots which took place in 1969 in New York City. Founded in 1973, the organization PFLAG is the first and largest dedicated to supporting, educating, and advocating for LGBTQ plus people and their families. PFLAG's network of hundreds of chapters and more than 250,000 members and supporters works to create a caring, just, and affirming world for LGBTQ plus people and those who love them. Today, we have the privilege to be joined by the president of PFLAG Wilmington, Jim Bianchetta, as well as Sally McBride, co-chair of PTK Delaware. Sally, Jim, thank you so much for being with us today.
Wonderful to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
We appreciate it. So I want to jump right in. For those who aren't familiar, simply what is PFLAG, the organization?
PFLAG, we call ourselves the extended family of the LGBTQ community. People often ask, what do those letters stand for, PFLAG? And I can tell you what they used to stand for. They used to stand for Parents, Families, and Friends of Lesbians and Gays. Back in the 90s, we officially changed our national charter to be inclusive of the transgender community. And so that moniker of Parents, Families, and Friends of Lesbians and Gays sort of rules out the trans community, so we don't use that moniker anymore. And we now simply call ourselves the extended family.
Nice. And I wanted to say for the support for families, allies, and people who are in the LGBTQ plus community, that's in your mission statement that people can find. So can you speak a little bit about that mission?
Well, I mean, we obviously started back in the 70s, just after Stonewall riots in New York City. A mom of a gay man who lived in New York City just got fed up with the abuse that he was taking from the local police and others, that she decided to form this organization. Now it's become an organization of 400 chapters across the country, 3 here in Delaware. Our chapter is in Wilmington. There's a chapter in Middletown. There's also a chapter in Rehoboth Beach. And our mission is to comfort and provide support and advocacy for the community and their loved ones.
Sally, I want to get to you and talk to you a little bit about PK Delaware. First of all, what does PK stand for, PK Delaware?
PTK Delaware stands for Parents of Transgender and Gender Expansive Kids.
And how is this a partnership with PFLAG Delaware, or how does this work?
No, we're a separate group. Our mission is to provide a safe and non-judgmental space for parents of transgender and gender expansive kids in order to share info, resources, and life experiences. We also do advocacy and education to the community on the needs of the transgender and gender expansive population. And I can talk more about our support group. Okay, great. We started 6 years ago. We were started by 3 of us moms with transgender daughters. For me, I wanted to start this along with the 2 other women because in our journey, when our child came out at 21 as a transgender female.
And we should mention your daughter is?
Senator Sarah McBride.
We love Sarah.
Thank you very much. When she came out, within the first week or 2, it was devastating. First of all, we had no idea, and we were so scared for her future and her safety. But one of the things in those first couple of weeks after she told us that gave us hope was speaking to 2 other parents who had transgender daughters, adult daughters, who were happy, healthy, and fulfilled. So that really inspired me, along with the 2 other moms, to start this group. We started it 6 years ago. We met in person at Nemours Hospital the 3rd Thursday of every month. We started a youth group a couple of years ago for the children of our parents, and that meets the third Wednesday of the month. 2 years ago, we went by Zoom, like everybody else, so we still meet once a month by Zoom. We have over 350 families who have come through our doors over the last 6 weeks for at least one meeting. So it has grown faster than we ever imagined.
Exponentially, it seems
We also provide advocacy too, and education. That's a big part of our mission also, because knowledge is a powerful thing and helps to combat hate, misconception, and stereotypes.
Absolutely. So you had mentioned about the meetings. What can people expect when attending these meetings? And I'll go to you, Jim.
So people can, our meetings are via Zoom right now.
Okay.
Also. We're talking about doing some sort of hybrid in the future with maybe an in-person meeting once every 3 months and continue with Zooms. Most people find it very convenient. They don't have to hop in their car and drive across town to attend the meeting. But in the meeting, there's no such thing as a typical meeting. It really depends on what people bring to the meeting and what issues that they want to deal with and what issues they want to have discussed. And we can address pretty much any of the issues that might pop up and provide the support. About half the people who come to PFLAG meeting come there to give support. The other half are coming there to get support of some sort. And so for those of us who have been connected with the organization, my wife and I have been connected since the mid-90s when our son came out to us. And so, you know, we've decided to use, to give back to both our son and PFLAG for all the help that they gave to us.
And then so you became president after being involved for a number of years?
Yes. The fellow before me who was president passed away in 2016. He was the president since almost day one of PFLAG Wilmington. And so I had been the president of PFLAG in Houston, where we first got connected with PFLAG. And so then just decided to try to fill in for his to fill his shoes.
Excellent. So the meetings for PFLAG and PTK Delaware, they are separate meetings, is that correct? Okay. So if someone wanted to get more information about, you know, maybe which meeting we would go to, can you get some people overlap that maybe do go to both and can find resources
Absolutely.
in both organizations?
Yep.
You do, okay.
Yep.
Yes,
Yeah,
definitely.
Great, okay. Excellent. So what is the best way then to find out more for those who are watching and, you know, maybe they don't feel like they have a safe space and they have questions, or they don't have a loved one or a family member that they can go to for support and feel safe? Can they go to your website to find out more and reach out to someone, whether it is anonymously or they don't want anyone else to know, and to speak with someone that can give them resources?
Yeah, so tons of information at our website. I suggest people just Google PFLAG Wilmington of Delaware, PFLAG Wilmington, Delaware, and they'll find our website.
Excellent, excellent.
And for PTK, you can Google that, or you can go to ptkdelaware@gmail.com and get in touch with us.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Well, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're diving into LGBTQ plus youth in our area that's experiencing homelessness and the formation of Delaware LGBTQ plus Housing Safeguard Committee and the partnership with West End Neighborhood House. Stay with us. You're watching DETV.
Let DART do the driving. DART First State provides transportation that is clean, safe, reliable, and affordable. Plan your trip and get real-time bus information with the free DART Transit app. Scan your phone to pay your fare with the free DART Pass app. So what are you waiting for? Try transit today. Visit dartfirststate.com or call 1-800-652-DART.
Welcome back. In early 2020, a group of individuals came together to explore ways to support LGBTQ plus youth who were either experiencing homelessness or at risk for homelessness. After engaging the support of area organizations, the group named itself Delaware LGBTQ+ Housing Safeguard Committee. Joining me now is Stacy Shamburger, Director of Lifelines at the West End Neighborhood House. Stacy, welcome to the group here with Jim and Sally.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. So I want to start off with what is Lifelines?
So Lifelines is a program built off of the premise of taking care of the city's youth. We are primarily stationed right outside or right inside of the west side of the city. So we are a program within West End Neighborhood House, but we're not stationed inside of the building. And we manage programs, multiple programs for youth between the ages of 16 to 23 years old. So those who have been in the foster care system, those who have aged out of the foster care system, our LGBTQ youth, of course, and unaccompanied youth now is our newest segment of youth that we're wrapping our arms around.
How did the sort of partnership with PTK Delaware and PFLAG come about?
Well, so we received a phone call and letting us know that there was another group of youth that needed some support and some guidance and housing and programming. And Miss Sally and Mr. Jim approached us, and as West End collectively, as one of the many programs that we have within West End, to be able to figure out how we can come together and if we can come together and make sure that the youth are supported. And that's exactly what we were able to accomplish.
Fantastic. So I want to go to you, Jim. And Sally, please chime in. What were you seeing, a problem that you were seeing that made you want to reach out to Stacy?
Well, we had heard from numerous LGBTQ youth that shelter safety was a really big issue for them. We know that there are many youth in high schools who come out to their parents and literally get thrown out of the house sometimes and have nowhere to go, so they end up couch surfing and that sort of thing. And so it was really about a little over 2.5 years ago that we came together as a group, sitting around having a cup of coffee saying, what can we do to help? And we kind of looked at each other and said, why don't we build a shelter? And it didn't take us long to figure out that didn't make sense. We were not the right organization to be building and operating a shelter, and that we ought to be partnering with somebody. So that's when we reached out to West End and Stacy.
And the stats are staggering, Matt. 40% of homeless youth are LGBTQ. So that inspired us to do something.
Sure. And I want to elaborate on that startling statistic, Sally. Do you think that is because of when LGBTQ youth come out, there is that unacceptance from family, and that's why the homelessness number is so high?
Well, there are a lot, let me just say, there are a lot of parents that are accepting
of course.
And wonderful. But yes, it's still happening that LGBTQ youth, when they come out to their parents, are thrown out of the house or they feel unsafe. So I'm sure that's a big part of it.
Sure. Does it surprise you, Jim and Sally and Stacy, please chime in as well, that we're in the year 2022 and that number, that 40%, still seems so high for as far as we've come in the United States? Does that surprise you that we still have such an unacceptance of our LGBTQ plus youth?
I mean, we've taken some real steps forward, Matt, in terms of protections for LGBTQ youth, but there's a lot of states that don't, where the LGBTQ population do not have protections. We're lucky in Delaware because we have anti-discrimination bills for both sexual orientation and gender identity. But there are a lot of states that don't have that.
We're lucky.
And now we're seeing a lot of anti-trans bills in state legislatures. So a couple steps forward. Fortunately, we have a president who is very pro-LGBTQ, very much an ally. So we're fortunate to have that. That helps. But there's so many legislatures that are passing hateful laws.
Thank you. So Stacy, I want to go back to the program here. So once a resident is accepted, Obviously, you're going to meet their basic needs, food, shelter, a human's basic needs. And then we start to transition into that safe and secure environment. What services that your program has designed that sort of would help someone in the program achieve independence?
Thank you for asking that question. So we provide intensive case management services. So yes, meeting the basic needs first, because we can't get anything done until people feel safe and they feel comfortable and clean and fed. And then at that point, we begin the process. We begin the hard work, right? So the hard work really will consist of each individual's need. So if there's a particular individual who has been homeless for quite a bit of time, it will take them a little longer to adjust in order to make sure that they feel comfortable, in order to make sure that they feel safe. So we make sure that we have a supportive member of our team that's going to kind of stick by, and be a support system, be a parent, if you will, be a big brother, a big sister. We try to work really hard to make it feel like a family and not necessarily a program. So making sure that that youth feels connected to us. They immediately have our cell phone numbers. They know exactly where it is and when and how to find us. There's no limit to the level of access it is that they have. If there are mental health, issues that are presenting themselves, then we make sure that we have either connected them to the mental health services that they need, or we provide them ourselves. Everything from medication management, mental health, substance use and support, along with any other supportive services. So it is literally teaching them how to grocery shop so they could get the biggest bang for their dollar, making sure their medical needs are met. So we are pretty much running the gamut of services to make sure that we're providing a level of support for the youth that they can feel self-sufficient and that they can move through the process of growing up, and maintaining their own independence. We put all those services in place, along with workshops, that are not only educational, but that are fun. We want people to come in and enjoy themselves and have a good time, but there's always an educational component to it also.
And Matt, we know that there's a mental health crisis in this country, particularly among our youth. And so you layer that with being LGBTQ, and for transgender, often the gender dysphoria, and that just exacerbates the issue.
Absolutely, that makes sense. What are the ages, when we talk about youth, what are the ages that the program sort of takes in and assists?
So in totality, we service ages 16 to 23. In regards to our housing programs, to include our Pride program, we are housing youth between ages 18 to 23. And then our home base, which is our drop-in center, our newest drop-in center, we're supporting youth 18 to 23 years old.
Excellent.
Yes.
And then, so where can those at home who are watching this, where can they find out more information about the program?
So you can always go to our website, which is www.West End Neighborhood House, so westendnh.org. Yes. And we're always, right underneath of programming and right underneath of youth, and you can find all of our services there.
Excellent. And there is a link on PFLAG Wilmington's website as well under your partner tab too. So if you go there, we can find information there as well. So lots of ways to get connected with you.
Absolutely.
Excellent. We appreciate you being here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
When we come back, we'll meet two family members who have received support from both PFLAG and PTK. They're here to talk about how they were helped and now how they're helping both organizations. Stick around, we'll meet them both when we return.
Youth homelessness is a burgeoning problem all over the country. What we would like to do is expand the amount of housing that we have from 21 units to 31 units, create a ADA compliant housing unit. We would also like to create a drop-in center, first of its kind in the state of Delaware, for homeless youth, where we provide a whole bunch of supportive services for them as well.
I did not grow up in the most positive environments. I did not have a very strong support system. I found myself homeless. I was about 18 and I aged out of foster care, and I had no family support systems.
They're youth, they are going to be the people that are shopping in the grocery stores with you, and they are going to be the people that are living next door to you, and the people that are walking their dogs just like you, and they need the same level of support that most of us were afforded.
I believe that I learned resilience. I found my own self-worth, And with that, I was able to walk out into this world believing in myself.
The Capital Campaign with West End Neighborhood House and Cornerstone West CDC really builds off of the legacy of affordable housing development. And I'm really excited in working with the community to develop some additional housing for youth aging out of foster care and develop the first drop-in center for homeless youth up the street.
The drop-in center is really going to provide another safe space for our youth to be able to come to if, for whatever reason, they don't have a home to go to or they didn't get a meal that night.
It's about providing that housing, but it's not just about building these great units for our young people. It's also about looking at how does this development help the community.
Everything that West End does with youth aging out of foster care and foster youth is extremely impactful. The way that they've been able to focus in on and identify a particularly vulnerable population and connect those folks to opportunities to make sure that people have the resources they need to thrive. It's just the ultimate way a community organization can serve.
Welcome back. We're joined now by Amy and Milo Morton, two family members who have received support from both the PFLAG and PTK Delaware organizations, and now they're helping the organizations themselves. Amy and Milo, thanks so much for being here today. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks. So, Milo, you are a transgender male. Can we go through your story a little bit? How old were you when you came out? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I was 13 when I came out to my family and started actively participating in my transition. A lot of media portrays transitioning as I knew something was wrong from a very young age, but that's not a part of a lot of our stories. I was a girly girl. I was active in Girl Scouts. I dressed as a princess. Belle was my favorite. But at the time that puberty happened, and especially the change to middle school, I felt very disaligned. My friend group started dissolving. I wasn't taking very good care of myself. I was in a very deep depression, and it took a very long time for me to figure out what that was. And there weren't supports. I didn't know what being queer was, what being trans was, until I found it on Tumblr, on the internet. And it felt very lonesome. But I was able, after a very hard year, I got the strength to tell my parents, and they helped find me supports like PTK, Ask, PFLAG, so many others that I've been so grateful to be a part of, that helped me grow into myself and find out who I was, not just as a man, but as myself, which is something I never could have imagined before that point.
So when you had sort of gotten that internal courage to come out to your parents, Amy, what was that conversation like for you?
We actually were joking around about this morning because we remember it two different ways. And both are valid, you know. I think initially I was taken aback. I just didn't know how to respond. And from Milo's point of view, I walked away from him, and that bothers me now to think that. But then I think it was the process. I had to process in my head, you know, okay, so what do we do now? Because I'm a fixer, you know, and I want to make everything right for him and, you know, get the supports we need. And I believe it was within a week. I said something to a friend who then connected me to one of the co-chairs of PTK, and the ball rolled from there. And, you know, it's a journey. It's not only a journey for Milo. He's the important player in the game, but we got a whole family on board. You know, mom, dad, brothers. So it's a transition for everybody, and we have gone through it together. And I could never dream of not supporting him. So
I want to talk about how, you know, that relationship with PTK Delaware and PFLAG happened. Can you talk to us about that?
Sure, absolutely. So as I said, when, you know, I'm like, okay, transgender, what's that mean? What do we do? You know, how can I support him? I reached out and then attended my first meeting with PTK, and back then we were in person, which was a lovely thing. It was a family. They welcomed you the minute you walked in the door. You were allowed to share what you were comfortable sharing at that time. We're a pretty open crew, so we shared openly. Even me as a parent, my husband's been to a few events, and you know, we have Christmas parties together, we have cookouts, we have, you know, so it's not just a, you know, come in and share your experience and what you're doing. You are together. We have a private Facebook group, you know, that's open to just us, so we can be safe to talk about what we want to talk about. From PTK, Milo and I were both very involved. He was part of the youth group.
And to that extent, at that first meeting, when we were still allowed inside of AI, because we were a very rowdy group because we kept growing.
Is that right? Okay.
There was the first youth group meeting, I think it was me and 4 other kids. And it was very quiet at first, but then they became my core friends. And I really don't think I would have been able to get through that part of my life without them. And then we just started growing and got to the point where we had 20-some kids at each meeting, each going through different parts in their transition. And like we said, it was too much for us to just be sitting in a room by ourselves. So I kind of shifted into this youth mentor position where I was building agendas for us and getting guest speakers. We had Sarah come in one day and explain policy. And we had like icebreakers to get us through and what important topics we need to talk about. I was having us teach about queer history in Stonewall because I find that really important to remember what our elders went through in the community, especially today. And going through that, though, I believe I've transitioned out of the need of that internal support that was really registered for an earlier me. I still value all those people. A friend from that group made me an honor tassel in trans colors for my graduation that I wore walking across the stage. Nice. And his mom still knew me and still asked me how I was doing when I went to pick it up, and I could not be more grateful for that.
Well, we have to mention you just graduated high school,
yes.
Right? Where'd you graduate from?
MOT Charter High School.
Nice. And where are you headed next?
Ohio Wesleyan University in Delaware, Ohio.
To study?
Zoology and theater.
I love it. Awesome. Sounds good. And we're headed soon, like end of July, you were just telling me, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Sounds great. Awesome. So I want to turn over to this panel here. So Jim, Sally, what do you remember about first meeting Amy and Milo?
They were leaders, and their desire, Amy's desire to, and many of our parents, when you walk through the door, that's the hardest step in some ways. But it says to us that we want to be the best parents we can be to our transgender, gender expansive children. And Amy has taken a leadership role. She's helped facilitate some of the groups. And as Milo just said, he was a mentor to some of the other kids. It is a family journey. And I think there are a couple things that support groups offer. They reinforce the idea that you're not alone. Mm-hmm. You're not alone, Milo. Amy, you're not alone. Yeah. There's so many other parents and kids going through the same journey, although everybody's journey looks different. It's important to tell our parents, because they're going to make mistakes, but to give yourself grace, but keep growing. Mm-hmm. And so that is an extremely important. The last thing I'll say about support groups I think is so important is giving the parents and the kids hope for the future. Yes. It will get better.
Absolutely. And especially, being with the support of the groups that, you all three support here and lead here is super important. I think you all would agree that's important.
I just want to say that, so one of the differences between PFLAG's support group meetings and PTK's is that PTK support group meetings are for the parents of the kids exclusively.
Okay.
And PFLAG, anybody can come to PFLAG meeting.
Okay.
And so I can remember numerous times when Amy and Milo both came to meetings where there would be a brand new parent who just learned that they had a trans youngster, didn't know about PTK, but they found us on the website and came to our meeting. So obviously we connect them right away with PTK. Many of the support needs for lesbian, gay, and bi kids are the same as for trans and gender expansive kids. but there are some unique differences as well that PTK can supply that PFLAG really cannot supply.
And so they complement each other well.
So they complement each other amazingly, yeah. And so Amy volunteered at one point to help be our answer our voicemail system and to check in with all the people and respond to people who were calling in to seek out support of one nature or another. Milo served on our advisory council for a couple of years, and I can remember a couple of times Milo in PFLAG meetings where there were new parents there who asked a question or two, and your responses were just phenomenal in terms of coming from the source, coming from a person. It would be so much different for a parent to hear that from another trans person, hear that comment or respond to their question from another trans person than it would be coming from a dad, a gay man. So,
very important. All right, well, before we go, Stacy, I want to mention an event that we're having before Pride ends. When's that?
That is on June 30th, starting at 1 p.m. It will be held at our drop-in center, and we are going to be hosting a Pride barbecue. So super excited because I love to eat. Absolutely.
Excellent. Okay.
Absolutely open to the public, supporting our youth. And it doesn't have to be 18 to 23. So we are opening it up to the public, like you said, 1 p.m. And the address is 1708 West 8th Street. And that is at our new home-based drop-in center.
So listen, we are out of time. I believe that half hour went super fast. So I ask you, will all five of you come back at some point soon and continue this conversation? It's an important one. I would love to have you come back when you're on break. You come back.
We love it.
Thank you so much. We want to thank Jim, Sally, Stacy, Amy, and Milo for being with us today for this important conversation. To learn more about any of the topics we discussed on today's show, head to pflagwilmde.org. There you can also find a link to the Weston Neighborhood House as well. Information there. So we thank you for joining us for this special edition of DETV News. I'm Matt Ford. Stay well. We'll see you next time, and happy Pride.